Dr. Viliami Folau, sorry about that, is a geodetic surveyor and the head of the Corporate Science Services Division at Tonga's Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, and involved in the South Pacific community.
Thank you, Leo. Good morning, everyone. For those joining from 14th of Feb, good morning from tomorrow. It's very good to see you all. First of all, I would like to thank Leo and the organizers for organizing this workshop for the Pacific. Since the Humahapai eruption, discussions have been made regarding GNSS for early warning system. Thank you very much to Alison, Gretel, Elizabeth, and Anastasia, and also Leo for all the assistance making this workshop a reality. And we are very happy, especially for the region, to have this workshop. Next slide, Leo. As you all know, we are aware of the devastating eruption of the Humahapai volcano. 15th of January was the largest recorded eruptions since the 1800s. Having tsunami waves struck the west coast of the main island Tongatapu, Eua, and Hapai. Also, asphalt covered that is 5 square kilometers of Tonga. So, adding on to that was the disconnection of the fiber optic cable, which disconnect Tonga from the world for 7 days. But finally, it was on. But that's the impact of the Humahapai tsunami. By now, all of us are already aware of how big it is and the impact it has in Tonga. Next slide, please. Just to recap, Tonga is one of the most vulnerable countries in the world. Islands are made up of both volcanic and coral islands, and most of the villages in Tonga are located close to the sea. So this is just to look at how vulnerable the islands is, not only Tonga, but the rest of the Pacific. Next slide. This is shows the number of submarine volcano just along the Humahapai volcano, known as the Four Ridge. So this is Tonga located on the southwestern border of the Ring of Fire, and the area has tectonic activities since 1900s. For Tonga, since 1839, volcanic activities have been located, both submarine and also volcano. But in terms of human settlement, one of the active volcanoes still is New of All, where people are still living there, which makes it more vulnerable to earthquake, tsunami, and also volcanic eruption. So Tonga is situated along the Ring of Fire, make it more vulnerable to earthquake, tsunami, and volcano. Like I said, it's similar to what's throughout the islands of the Pacific. Next slide. John Labreck, in his first presentation, did detailed presentation on GNSS to enhance tsunami early warning systems. Just want to recap a few points that he already mentioned, how the GNSS measured the disturbance in the ionosphere by atmospheric waves. And also GNSS also measured land motions and land displacements. But I want to recap the workshop that John mentioned earlier in 2007, which seeks to implement the vision articulated by IUGG in 2015. Resolution number 4 is to encourage product cooperation within Indo-Pacific community for the adoption of GTUs. I think this is the right moment for the region to discuss in adopting this resolution. As we can see, tsunami is real. It can happen anytime. So I think this is the work for us in the region to look at GTUs and also joining the task force that John mentioned earlier. Next slide, please, Leo. Yes, with Tonga eruption, luckily the eruption was very close to us. We can see it, we can hear it, and that is the first first warning that we have is looking at the waves, looking at the eruption and hearing it. So people were evacuated. Imagine that there was it was far away, and I think that's when the GTUs come into handy in when it's happening in a distant location. Also, John did discuss the GNSS. I believe, based on the papers, that after the Japan earthquake, the GNSS, the world's most advanced GNSS global network of 1,300 GPS receiver, provided that convincing argument the value of GTUs for enhancing the tsunami early warning system. It shows clear example the roles and the measurement of GNSS can play in providing a rapid, accurate, and cost-effective tsunami early warning system. Next slide, Leo. Just to show you the GNSS in Tonga, actually we have 2 stations in Tonga. It is part of the Pacific Sea Level and Geodetic Monitoring project funded under the Climate and Ocean Support Program funded by the Australian government, where you can see the red dots there throughout the islands of the Pacific. That's one station per island. And looking at the region, yes, we have stations there. Fiji is building more GNSS stations within Fiji, populating their network, densifying their GNSS network. Next slide, Leo. So this is after the Tonga Hapai eruption, and Tonga was disconnected for about 7 days. When the internet came on, we have received numerous analysis, measurements, and observations throughout the world. And if the internet were not off, maybe we will receive this just after the eruption and the tsunami. You can see there that's the anomalies within the atmosphere, within the ionosphere measured by the Tonga station, but that's particularly for the satellite J02. Next slide, please. Also, talking earlier regarding stations throughout the region, this is the Futuna and the Samoa stations, which again measured the disturbance the disturbance in the ionosphere, the total electron content within the ionosphere. Next slide. And that is the Lautoka station in Fiji and also the Tahiti stations. I pull out these stations just to show that there is infrastructures within the region that can support the enhancing of the tsunami early warning system within the region. Points were made earlier regarding the sharing of information, the sharing of expertise, the sharing of softwares. And I think the good thing with our network here in the region was all the data has been shared through this project. But I think more work has to be done in equipping the personnel within the region to handle this kind of analysis and computations. Next slide, please. The GNSS stations throughout the region, like the Tonga stations, also measured the land motions. As you look at the diagram here, the top one is the tide gauge, and the bottom one is the GNSS station. So basically, the sea level project has two components, which is the tide gauge and also the GNSS stations. So the station is located about 1 kilometer from the tide gauge, and if you can see that both graphs is moving downwards, which indicate that the Tonga is sinking, or the tide gauge, or the stations is moving towards the center of the Earth, or should I say. So that shows us again the significance of having GNSS stations in the region. This is just one station. It doesn't really represent the whole of Tonga, but I believe more stations should be in place to have a more representation of the land movement throughout the nations. Next slide, please. And this is just how I see it. This is my own view regarding the impact of the tsunami. Yes, Tonga is vulnerable. Yes, we are unprepared. And yes, there's the lack of that early warning system, which all leads to a severe impact. Again, luckily for the Hunga Tonga Hunga Hawaii eruption, it was during the day. It was just a few kilometers away. We can see, we can hear everything, which triggered an evacuation without listening to waiting for the instruction to evacuate. So if it was far away without those physical view and hearing, I think the impact will be quite severe. And if it was during the night, again, it will. I think the impact will be severe. Next slide, Leo. And what do we need to enhance our early warning system, especially tsunami? Again, this is similar to all the islands of the Pacific. Tonga is made up of low-lying areas. As mentioned before, villages, nearly all villages are located close to the sea. Sea level is rising, and also Tonga is sinking. So the impact of sea coming inland is like double. And if we say a tsunami comes predicted to be 50 years, we have that number times 50 years, and we see how much the impact will be inland. And I just put there, not everyone has a vehicle to evacuate. This is the islands. Not every family has a vehicle. Only those that has a vehicle were able to evacuate to higher ground. So one family, only those who can fit in the vehicle can go, and the rest will have to walk or to stay there. So this is why Tonga and the rest of the Pacific really have to adopt and the TTU's resolutions on how to improve our capability on GNSS, the infrastructures, and also the expertise so we can have a more enhanced and more timely early warning system in terms of tsunamis. Next slide, Leo. And for Tonga, I think this is again, this is similar across the region. This is new. Tsunami for early warning. GNSS for tsunami early warning system is still new. GNSS is already still new, and adding on GNSS to enhance the tsunami early warnings is new. I believe this is the work that we can be done together, regional cooperation and also international cooperation, how we as islands can convince our governments that this is needed, that this piece of infrastructure is vital to the safety of our countries and our islands. Also, it has been agreed upon that GNSS stations can also co-located with seismic stations to enhance the land displacement data throughout the country. But more importantly, the expertise on hand, the local expertise in GNSS technologies and also analysis of GNSS data and observation is key. We don't have very much expertise in GNSS technology. We are still building our capacity. We're looking to have more staff, to train more staff. We're looking to send them for placement overseas just to gain this vital expertise in terms of GNSS technologies. And like I said before, we need more GNSS stations throughout Tonga. I think to conclude my presentation, Leo, just last year, the King of Tonga made this statement that Tonga needs to use the latest satellite technologies to ensure the safety and security of Tonga. And I believe we have a mandate from the King to look at satellite technologies to support not only development, but also safety, security, resilience, and also the future of Tonga. And I say this, this will be similar to the islands of the Pacific. We have infrastructures in place, but we need to densify our networks. We need the expertise. We need the assistance from all our partners, regional and global, and also sharing of information and sharing of expertise when called upon from us from the islands. And I believe that brings the presentation to an end. Thank you, Leo.
Thank you very much, Viliami. Very good presentation. So, tragic perspectives, the people of Tonga. We are a little bit short on time, so I might ask people to keep their questions for later in the chat, and we will keep track of that during the discussion. Importantly, an important point I think that needs to be highlighted is that the use of those operational and the development of those operational tools definitely needs to be made available offline of the internet, for those communities that have that are subject to being unfortunately cut off from these networks. In order to have these uh, infrastructure and possibly and capabilities locally, and that works. That is also in line with the need for local experts that Viliami brought up. Very nice.